All right. So, Anthony, first of all, thanks for your time. Can you just go over what the Kentucky Derby means? Why is it so special?
When the casual fan, the weekend warrior, the people that will be playing the Kentucky Derby play the other Triple Crown races in the Breeders' Cup, and friends, a lot of my friends that I grew up with aren't really horse players. They want to know one thing: who won the Kentucky Derby? When you are talking to people that aren't racing fans, trainers, Shug McGahee told me the story one time how for years he wasn't able to say, people would ask, you ever win the Kentucky Derby? And he would just say no. And then finally in 2013, when Orb bounded through the slop at Churchill Downs to win the Derby, he was able to say yes. He goes, you'd be surprised how many longer conversation I've had since that day. So it's all really, it's part of Americana. And I think that's the best way to put it. It's just part of the fabric here.
Nice. And I mean, for you personally, like, do you have any standout moments through the years, like where maybe your first Kentucky Derby you remember, like big wins or losses or whatever?
So my favorite horse of all time is Easy Goer, who got beat in the mud 31 years ago to Sunday Silence. Not that I'm holding any grudges, but I remember that like it was yesterday. I watched it on the first floor at Aqueduct with my dad, and you could tell Easy Goer wasn't going to get there in the mud, and got his revenge in the Belmont Stakes. So that was really the first Derby. I remember Ferdinand a few years before that almost falling down, and just that the miracle that he stayed up and actually won the race. So that was like my first memory. First real emotion was that Derby with Easy Goer back in 1989. Actually, with VegasInsider.com covering for them, went to my first Kentucky Derby in 2008, and I'm an emotional guy, so when the first strains of my old Kentucky home hit, I choke up thinking about it. I was crying like a little baby. So it is, it's the race in America. Americans can be very cocky and brash about things. I still believe it's one of the most important races in the entire world. The pageantry is amazing. I've had some luck. Funny side, in 2003, made an awful lot of money with him. And just last year, the most controversial Derby of all, the disqualification on a $12 play in the exacta and a $24 play in the try over at VegasInsider.com, you got back $7,200 for $36. So, yeah, I'll never forget last year's Derby for a multitude of reasons.
Nice. And touching on, what it takes to win when you're betting on the Kentucky Derby, can you just talk a little bit about what you're kind of looking for in terms of form or like pointers towards this race? Obviously, this year is going to be very different, but on a usual kind of scale, what do you look for?
It's funny how the COVID-19 outbreak has affected so many things, and you think about a horse race and you don't think, it's very minor on the scale of things, but I've attacked this race a little bit differently this year. Namely because some of these horses, Tis the Law, Max Player, they've already been the mile and a quarter. And that's the biggest question in a traditional year. Who is going to handle this distance? Well, there's a handful in here who already have. Namely Tis the Law, who not surprisingly is my pick. I don't think there's any chance he's going to get beat on Saturday. He can only beat himself, as they say in horse racing. I think that's the biggest thing. That question kind of, I don't want to say it's taken out of the equation because more of them haven't run the mile and a quarter. So what I'm looking for now is let's see how these horses have stayed. This is the longest Kentucky Derby trail in the history of the Kentucky Derby. And I think you've seen, Joe, you and I talked about this off camera, the defections. And quite frankly, I'm surprised there haven't been more when you think about how long these horses have had to stay happy and healthy. It's 8 months in the year as opposed to 4 months till they get to the Kentucky Derby. So the fact that Tis the Law came into this year as one of the top three and is here as the prohibitive favorite. He's an odds-on favorite. I can't imagine he's going to be, speaking of Easy Goer, the first horse laid at odds-on prior to the race. Arazi went to post as the 9-10 favorite in 1992. He's going to be shorter than Arazi was in 1992, and I do believe the result will be different. I do believe he'll get the job done.
Yeah, nice. And so, when you see like that big odds-on favourite to go into the race. I mean, yeah, the value probably isn't just betting him to win outright, right? I mean, where would you see the value in betting on the race?
So more often than not, I don't like. I'm not a chalk guy. I'm also not one of these people that go looking to beat the chalk. I handicap a race, and I bet who I like. No, I am not the kind of guy that takes 3 to 5, 4 to 5. I was ready to make the biggest win bet of my life on him at 8 to 5, and that's not something I like to dabble in ordinarily. I have that much confidence in him. I believe there's a way to make some money in here. So we talked about the distance. I don't think Authentic is going to want the 1.25 miles. He won the Haskell in gate to wire fashion. Man, it looked to me like he was completely stretched out in 1 1/8 miles. Honor AP, who's going to be, I would believe, the second choice. Authentic will be the third choice, and then from there, can't really forecast after the first 3 choices. I think Authentic is vulnerable, and I think that can certainly help if you're playing exactas, trifectas, superfectas, especially in this race. It's still the Kentucky Derby. There are still 18 horses. I believe the exacta in the Belmont Stakes with Tiz the Law and Dr. Post, who's not running in the Derby, paid $17 and change, or $18, so right around 8 or 9 to 1. That was the Belmont with 10 horses. This is the Derby with 18 horses. So even if the exacta comes 17-16 and Honor AP rounds it out, I can't imagine it's going to pay less than $23 or $24, 11, 12 to 1. So right there, even if you're not a fan, and I'm not the biggest Honor AP fan anymore, you can still make money if the favorites are on 1-2. I'm going to try and get Authentic out of everything. I like 2 long shots. The number 2 Max Player and number 3 Enforceable look like horses that are going to really relish the 1.25 miles. Now, Max Player ran third in the Run Happy Travers behind Tiz the Law. The horse that was second, Caracaro, unfortunately got injured. I still would have liked Max Player more than him just because of the distance. I feel like Max Player is going to be a horse that relishes the distance. He gets a trainer change to Hall of Famer Steve Asmussen. Ricardo Santana Jr. is going to ride. And Enforceable, his trainer, Mark Cassie, who would have been inducted into the Hall of Fame this year had it not been for the COVID-19 outbreak. He started him out in sprints, but he didn't break his maiden until he went 1 1/8 miles here in Saratoga in his 4th start, the only 2-year-old race going a distance of ground last year. And he has just had a steady diet of graded stakes. He comes running at the end of his races. He's run through a couple of track biases. They're both 30 to 1, laid 30 to 1 on the morning line. So I'm going to play it 17-3, 17-2, a little 17-16 to cover the bet.
Nice one. And do you ever look at like prop bets as well, like winning margin, or I know that you can bet on like the times of the quarter, like quarter mile times, that kind of stuff, over under. Do you ever look at those kind of prop bets to make it even more fun, or like have some fun bets?
Unfortunately, we're not exposed to that parimutually here in the United States. I haven't, because, and it's funny you bring this up, because I was looking to see what I could get on Tiz the Law winning by over 3 lengths. I think this is going to be a crowning moment. He has been racing well all throughout his career. I think the Belmont Stakes was a nice little step forward. The Run Happy Travers last time was, the race I think everybody was waiting for. I don't believe we've seen the best of him yet. His trainer, Barclay Tagg, who won the Derby in 2003 with Funnyside, has had a lot of good horses over the years. He's an old-school Maryland horseman. He knows how to keep his horses happy, healthy, and fit. And those are the 3 most important things. And he has gotten this horse here, and it really doesn't look like he's put the screws to him or gotten to the bottom of him yet. So if you're out there looking for a prop bet, find out what the over-under margin of victory is. If it's 3 lengths, I would be taking as much of the over as I possibly can, to the point where, like in NFL games, I know a lot of my friends who do play sports, bet sports, they'll buy points up and try and enhance their odds. I would even see what the over-under set at. Probably going to be set at 2.5 lengths, I would imagine. I would take as much on the over as I can, and then maybe get a little goofy and try and buy a length and see what it is if he wins by 4 lengths or more, and maybe throw a few bucks on that, because I really think we're going to see a big-time performance, a real breakthrough performance. And that's weird to say about a horse that's going to be an odds-on favorite, but I think he's going to wow a lot of people on Saturday.
Perfect. That's cool. Just a side note as well, does he go for the Preakness for the Triple Crown, or what's your view on that?
Yeah, and he's going to go, I would assume, to the Preakness, which will be on October 3rd. So he gets 4 weeks between the starts. And then I would imagine, provided all goes well, the Breeders' Cup Classic is something you'd have to think about. I have not been overwhelmed by the older horses here this year. In fact, I think there are a couple of horses under the radar, namely my pick from last year's Kentucky Derby, Tacitus. I think he's the kind of horse that can maybe have a really big second half. He's running Saturday at Saratoga in our Grade 1 Woodward, going 1.25 miles, which is the distance of the Classic. I mean, I'll tell you what, if this horse stays on the trajectory he's on, and I'm right, and 'tis the law, we haven't seen the best of him yet, the older horses will have their hands full come Saturday, November 7th.